The ore that is extracted from the seam is crushed and reduced to powder. This is the preparation for the next stage, during which the gold is separated from the rock. The gold is separated from the ore using a kimbalete, a big circular stone used like a grindstone. Water is poured into the bowl of the kimbalete, followed by mercury. The powdered ore containing gold is added to the water. As a result of the to and fro motion of the stone, the gold fixes itself to the mercury, while the rock powder stays in the water. With each movement of the cambalete, a little water is discarded, water which contains mercury. This chemical pollutant is added to those which come from the rubbish. Although the mercury is salvaged, at the end of the process it is estimated that for every ton of ore worked, 500 grams of mercury escape into the environment. The cambalete has finished its work. The mixture is poured through a piece of material to separate the gold and the mercury by pressing the mercury through the cloth to the outside. At the end, a mixture of gold and mercury is obtained, approximately 2 grams of mercury for every gram of gold. The last stage for the miner, the gold merchants' shops, which flourish at Rinconada. So you have to find those offering the best price. The mixture of gold and mercury is heated by the merchant. The mercury evaporates with the heat of the blow lamp, leaving only gold, pure this time, at the bottom of the saucer. The gram of gold is worth 35 soles, about $10. It's now midday and it has taken 6 hours to produce and sell this little gram of gold. Each month, every miner has to produce 10 times this amount in order to survive, but they only have one single day in which to achieve this feat. For each gram of gold, 2 grams of mercury evaporate into the atmosphere. The gases are evacuated through chimneys directly onto the roofs of the houses. In contact with cold air, the mercury condenses and is deposited in a radius of a few feet around the chimneys. Between 2 and 3 tons of gold a year are produced at Rinconada, releasing 4 to 6 tons of mercury into the air, which settles on the roofs and in the houses. As there's no drinking water system in Rinconada, the inhabitants collect the melting snow from their roofs and use it for their personal consumption. In this way, mercury is ingested directly by the miners and their families. This is the most serious and direct form of pollution in Rinconada at the present time. Mercury attacks the nervous system. It starts by increasing aggressiveness and then causes serious motor dysfunctions. Mercury is responsible for the rise in domestic violence in Rinconada, which is becoming more and more frequent. Life is as difficult for the contractors as it is for the miners. the state of Peru doesn't recognize the status of small-scale mines. In fact, neither the miners nor the contractors legally exist. They receive no government aid, are not entitled to social security, and are not allowed to borrow money for investment.
The contractors, or should I say the small-time contractors, are given no consideration whatsoever by the government. We're treated like labourers, and that hasn't changed since colonial times. They give us absolutely no chance, no means to be able to become real entrepreneurs. The state of Peru thinks that we're good for nothing, whereas it's exactly the opposite. We, the contractors, create employment opportunities. But what does the government do for us? Nothing. Nothing at all. It's a sorry state of affairs. At the moment, there are about 300 contractors. Out of those 300, there must be about 4 or 5 who are doing fairly well. The majority of us, let's say 284 contractors, live in a situation of extreme poverty. We've next to nothing at all. Let me tell you, a mine requires a huge investment. You have to put in a lot of money. You have to. You have to first of all cut through the mountain, then find a seam and all the rest of it. And then we have to reinvest, to be in with a chance of getting back some of the capital. But often we don't manage to. Quite honestly, we have no faith as far as the government is concerned. All we get is promises. Sometimes we get a visit from members of Congress or leaders from Lima. They make us promises and then they leave. But they never keep their promises. We stay here, abandoned by everybody. So that's the way things are.
Every miner working in Rinconada provides for 8 people, family, merchants and artisans. Closing the mine would make approximately 100,000 people unemployed. Unthinkable when you consider the economic situation in Peru. For small-scale mines, the priority today has to be to resolve the problems of safety, hygiene and pollution. Recognition by the state of these miners and contractors would perhaps allow the situation to change. Following pressure from non-governmental organizations, the status of small-scale mines should soon be written into Peruvian legislation. It will then be up to the miners and contractors to fight to have their rights enforced, so that the state takes its share of the responsibility for providing social and sanitary infrastructures in Rinconada.
If only it were possible to provide this population with a water treatment centre and distribution network, and to also have drains, a waste disposal centre, and a rubbish collection service. With all that, I'm sure that we could reduce the number of illnesses here.
The road should be tarred to make transport easier and waste less time. That would improve trade and commerce and would help us to increase our income. Now that would change our lives.
We're surrounded by gold, and yet we only just managed to survive. We're beggars locked in a bank full of gold. We beg. We need machinery, explosives and other things. We really need these things. But what do they give us? Nothing. We're forgotten.
No hay nada, solamente olvido.